Are people naturally bad at programming? I was recently having a conversation with my colleagues when one of us asked, "Why am I bad at programming and you guys are not?" Now, although it made me laugh a lot at the start, it did really bug me for a little bit after. The colleague that asked me this was in the same class as me. He was a very hard worker. He got the highest grades in the class, definitely smashing my grades, and was constantly trying to get better at programming. Now, it's worth mentioning that at the moment I'm in my fourth year of university. We both started at the same time, but my colleague would probably die if he had to fight just to write 2 lines of code. But why is that the case, and is it true that he could simply just be naturally bad at programming? Now, although many people would argue and say, no, you can't be bad at programming and that's just a matter of hard work and working smarter, I would very confidently argue, yes, you can be horribly naturally bad at programming. And before I get into why, first I want to ask a few questions. Are you understanding the theory behind programming concepts? And even if it's at a slow pace, are you understanding it? And can you apply programming concepts you understand when required? If someone corrects your mistake, do you understand your mistake and the reason behind it? If the answer is yes to the above questions, then I personally think that you have a higher chance of being a better programmer. However, it's not a clear identification. Now, I have friends who are much quicker than I am and better at understanding programming concepts. They can explain everything about a programming language, however, they are still unable to write the simplest programs. The reason behind this is not the fact that they lack programming knowledge, because they definitely have that and they have it really good, but I believe that the reason behind it is due to their lack of ability to form computer logic. This is often actually because they have great human understanding slash logic. Take, for example, the famous joke. A woman asks her husband, "Could you please pick up 2 apples from the grocery store? And if they have milk, then bring 5." Common and shared logic between the woman and her husband would let the husband buy 2 apples and 5 bottles of or cartons of milk if he finds them. And although we could probably all agree that that would make the order correct, the order is in fact incorrect, for a computer at least. See, as humans, we have agreed or been raised to translate that statement from the woman based on experience. However, the statement itself is incorrect. No way in the statement does it mention the purchase of milk. And so, if someone tries to write a code to process this order and they stick with their human logic, the program will simply fail. Instead, what they need to do is start thinking like a computer. A computer is not trained to base judgment based on mutual agreement or tradition or previous experience. A computer will do exactly as it's told without any biases of the person behind the screen. Now, in my opinion, being able to separate your way of thinking when communicating with humans from your way of thinking when you're communicating with computers is the number one skill needed for any successful programmer. And I also know that that's definitely the hardest skill to earn, especially, like I mentioned before, if you're good with your speaking skills and your human communication, basically. So at this stage, you're probably thinking, well, I'm a great public speaker. I know how to understand my friends understand me. Does that mean I'm a bad programmer? Well, no, it doesn't. Maybe at this stage you are, but it doesn't have to stay that way. You don't have to keep being a bad programmer. You just need to learn how to think like a programmer, how to think and communicate with a computer. Me personally, I was probably the worst programmer that I've ever met. I was even worse than the person who asked the question to begin with. But I picked it up really early. I realized that my issue wasn't necessarily in learning programming or like having the most knowledge on programming, but it was more of what am I actually trying to communicate with the computer? At the end of the day, programming languages are languages. They're ways for you to communicate with the computer, but you need to have a message to give the computer. You need to have your content to provide the computer. And for a really long time, I was just trying to write programs without having anything to actually communicate, without having anything to speak with to the computer. I see programming as a two-way conversation. Right now, I'm speaking to you guys, and you guys are listening to me. But even if I knew English really well and I didn't have a message, I didn't have content for this video, I didn't have any story to say, then you wouldn't be listening, you wouldn't be understanding what I'm saying. And again, it's exactly the same thing for a computer. Now, if you're a beginner, definitely learning so much about a programming language is great and it will help you. But maybe try actually write things, even if it's very small. If you look at my YouTube channel, the first videos that I made were very simple. How to compare to lists, how to declare things into a language, how to write very basic programs. They were things that I found very easy and I just copied it from someone or copied it from like a tutorial. But slowly, as I started comparing the task or the question and the answer, I started building that method of creating logic or creating content to provide to the computer to then create a useful program. If you follow this advice, I really can say that at some stage you will understand code rather than you will write code. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you learned something new today and I hope you enjoyed this video. Most importantly, don't be put down. Even if you're currently naturally bad at programming, we all were and we all will be. It's just a matter of just adapting to the computer. Thank you again for watching and I hope to see you in the next episode.